Alright, so welcome everybody. If Capture Age actually wakes up, we are going to have a scoreboard as well. And here we go. Nili versus Lyx, Red Bull Wololo for a qualifiers round of 16s. This is going to be best of 5 in between the two players. Nili is playing Vikings in yellow, no surprise about that. And on the left, we are going to have Lyx as Chinese in red. This is actually surprising because many would have anticipated the Chinese to be picked on lowland. So we'll see what Lyx has on his mind for that game. So, Chinese opening up with archers over here. Chinese do not get their extra villagers in Empire Wars. That's something to pay attention for, that you see that the villager count is actually super close. They still have a good late game composition, a very versatile civ overall, but it's the matter of, hey, they don't actually have their extra villagers to start with, whereas Vikings will get the free wheelbarrow upgrade, which means that their eco is going to be superior than the Chinese eco over here, Nili dropping quite a lot of farms early on here without horse color, not something I'm necessarily a big fan of, and Nili's map also isn't great, to be honest. Like, this front gold is awful. He has placed his archer range at a good spot and now tries to snap the first archer that's coming in. That's actually a decent idea from Nili, trying to intercept the first archers, because what he wants to achieve is to make sure that his villagers aren't getting pushed by early archers here, and now he moves out with his archers. Nili voling the back of his base first, that's an interesting decision. And now moves out to the archers, CL voling the front as well. Both players are voling pretty heavily over here. Lyx is going to have available Hunt as well to take. Nili, this isn't that great either. Nili definitely has a map disadvantage, but I think a civ advantage overall. And it looks like Lyx might actually loop around and try to hit Nili's base from the other side. Nili trying to delay those walls. I don't think that's going to happen though. Yes, indeed, the villagers will be able to finish those walls before things actually start happening. But this is a very nice interception from Nili. Uses the heal and he also has fletching. Lyx is without fletching over here, so being able to get some damage down those early archers is very nice from Nili already. And since Nili's scout is damaged, he won't be able to deny these walls easily either. Nili's got some very good scouting on the opponent's base, whereas for Lyx, he's completely flying in blind. In fact, Lyx has no idea where Nili is. Nili is going to abandon that hill, but tries to intercept the straggler archers, and now that Lyx has fletching as well, Nili is going to have to retreat. Lyx is going for an early archer armor upgrade, and we're going to have some skirms here as well for Lyx. Nili adding the second range just now. Remember that Lyx doesn't really know where Nili is, which is an advantage for Nili right now, considering that this gold mine is dangerously exposed. In fact, I wouldn't have minded if Nili places defensive tower on this one. There is some idle time on these villagers. The fact that Nili is doing all these farms without horse color actually makes me freak out. I'm not sure if he just forgot about it or what. His resources are looking crazy though. Look at that. 15 on food already. And it looks like this isn't a huge commitment into archers. This is more about, okay, let's poke around with archers, try to see if we can actually pick up 1 or 2 villas. But the priority for Nili here is going up to Castle Age. So if you look at that food count, that's an obvious way for Nili into Castle Age. In fact, if we get to see a market, we might even see Nili buying himself up. Nice little hill control for Nili, but he has to be careful because there is skirms in the party for Lyx, and he's got +1 defense as well. So on an open field, Lyx might consider taking that fight. Nili is still scouting for his opponent, and Lyx, honestly, Lyx isn't in a great position here. His army numbers are actually weaker than Nili's army numbers. Nili will close the distance, which will render those skirms inoperable. As you see, they're just chilling. And by the time they start to move, this is a cleanup, and Nili is on the way to Castle Age. As I said, I feel like Nili, if he plays perfectly, he's gonna have a good shot against Lyx, and so far he has been playing perfectly. This was near perfect gameplay from Nili. 0 seconds TC time. There was some villager idle time, but even with such a bad gold mine and such a bad base layout, he has had a very good feudal age. In fact, he won the feudal age fights, and he's going to beat Lyx into Castle Age as well. That's a very good combination, and now the key is that he doesn't want to lose those archers. He wants to get crossbowman upgrade in here for himself. Now goes for horse collar, and he's gonna get a stable done to deal with the skirmishers. So he's actually doing an extremely good job right now. Castle Age is on the way for Lyx as well, but that's a solid minute difference between the two, and the key now for Nili is not to lose these archers. If he loses these archers, things could turn around, because the thing is that if he loses the archers and then Nili goes for knights, then Lyx can actually go for a stable and go for camels. So this is not over yet, and Nili has to be careful. But this is looking pretty decent right now. And the thing is that Nili is going to have to preserve that army. His scout is relatively weak, and that means that his scout isn't going to be able to just harass the skirms over there. Lyx, let's see if he's trying to intercept that scout. Nice micro from Nili once again. Look at that. He dragged the scout of Lyx into the range of his archers, but that's a bad one for Nili. That's an awful one for Nili. Oh boy. Oh boy, that was an awful decision. That was an awful move from Nili. He's going to start losing those archers. And just before they upgrade to crossbows, that's a disaster. I don't think it's going to matter that much, but it's going to hurt for Nili. It's going to hurt so badly because the skirms are picking off his archers just before they upgraded. That hurts so bad. Nili's gonna have knights on the field, but that's like -4 archers that could have been crossbows. Remember that Lyx's gold mine is quite exposed here. Just a few crossbows could do so much damage. And Nili's eco is also going to be way better than Lyx's eco. Now a scout is out for Nili. This is a new scout that he has added. And Lyx is pure skirms. And if Lyx is pure skirms, Nili's knights will just smash it. And it looks like we're going to have knights from Lyx, because he needs to deal with the crossbows and the knights here. So camels alone will not actually be able to win this for Lyx. Lyx even opens up the wall here, which I classify as a misplay here. Because the knights can just run straight to his gold mine, so can the crossbows, and Nili can just afford to dive in here and say, okay, YOLO, I'm going to take that one knight down, and maybe just go for the gold miners. This was a huge mistake from Lyx. He literally opened the walls for Nili, and now Lyx is off from gold. He's got some stockpiles, which allows him to make some more knights to clean this one up, but this is going to be an awful lot of idle time. Definitely not something that you want to see if you're Lyx. Nili, at this point, he can afford to lose that army of crossbows if he picks off some villagers with that, and he seems like he's gonna be capable of doing so. We got Buzzit Drown with the resub. Thank you so much for that as well. The knights now have +2 defense and bloodlines, and the only problem here for Lyx is that he's off from gold. He is gonna clean this army up, but if you actually look at the villager counts and the fact that Nili already has handcart as well and boso, Nili's eco is like far superior, and at the end of the day, he kills 4 villagers and loses none. So this is getting tricky here for Lyx. If you look at his wood count, it's awful. He's going to be on 2 TCs. Nili is already on 2 TCs as well, actually 3 TCs for Nili with handcart. And with handcart, the Viking farming eco is crazy. Look at that food count for Nili. It's 10 villagers, 11 villagers lead now, plus he has handcart. He's gonna have heavy plow as well, so Nili's eco here is just going to be shining. And I feel like what Lyx is gonna need indeed is Elite Skirm. Elite Skirm could cause a headache for Nili. Because the thing is that there is quite a lot of knights on the field with +2 defense, and Nili doesn't have an enormous army right now, which is something to consider. So let's see if Nili is gonna end up going boom into GG here, because I feel like he's playing a little bit overly greedy here. If he gets a good crossbow numbers, he's gonna be fine. But I think he needs a third range, and he is going for a barracks for squires. So he feels like his opponent is gonna go 4 knights, which may or may not be true. Lyx is mixing in some skirms, but the skirms are missing +2 defense, and it's only 1 range. So technically, pikemen can make sense for Nili, right? Technically, Lyx could switch back into archers, but that seems like a distant dream for him. And now Nili possesses a 17 villagers lead with 20 on food. 20 on food with handcart for Vikings is going to be more than satisfactory for Nili here. He even yoinks some relics for himself, and he's got some nice relic spawns if you look at this. This is a good relic spawn for Nili. This is a perfect relic spawn. Nili could be on 3 relics very soon as well, which once again is an added effect to his eco. He's mixing in a lot of monks, so this is not only for relics, this is also for conversions. He wants to get 2 or 3 conversions on those knights. Forward Veil for Siege Workshop over here. This is a semi-passive spot, but I like that. This is something that Doubt did against... Doubt had a practice game, I think, against maybe Nili, where a similar scenario was actually done. I actually did my Empire Wars build order video on YouTube from that. And that was the same thing. This is like a semi-passive Siege Workshop here for Nili. Not super aggressive, but it's good enough to hold this ridge over here, start pressuring Lyx's base, and it's going to be good enough to hold off the skirmishers. Lyx apparently is going to go for a very, very heavy skirmisher play over here. Crossbow still on the field, no +2 defense, and some of those skirms might actually get intercepted. Nili doesn't have a lot of upgrades on those knights though, which is something to consider. There is going to be monks coming in. Skirms could try picking off the monks. There is a nice shot from Lyx. I think we got one conversion in, but Nili, this wasn't a great fight for him. Nili, that was just not a great wall or a great fight. Nili is actually going to lame the gold mine of Lyx. He really wants to win here. He really wants to win. He's really using every bit of little advantage that he can grab. And Mangonel might actually go down here, but the Knights are just, you know, slowly dying. And that means that the Elite Skirms will be left to Nili's own Knights and the Mangonels. Still, there is quite a lot of army over here, and as I said, Nili could actually struggle a little bit against the Elite Skirm. That Mangonel gets picked off, and if Lyx goes heavy on Elite Skirm, Nili's Pikemen and Crossbows will both melt. So, the only thing that Nili has right now in terms of combat capabilities is that his eco is just much, much better. Eventually, the unit composition is much better for Lyx, and Nili has to watch out for that. By the way, yes, indeed, Nili is without ballistics. He's got a Mangonel here, misses the shot, and once again, the Knights could dive in and pick that Mangonel off. Nice micro from Lyx over there, avoiding the Mangonel shots. And another split. Knights are going down from Lyx a little bit faster than he wants them to, and now there is Knights over here from Nili, which would allow Nili to clean these skirms up. Crossbow switch coming in here from Lyx, I don't like that. The thing is that the crossbows will not do much against Nili's own crossbows. It's going to be an even fight. That's a nice mango shot as well. And after an even fight, Nili is going to end up having a way better eco, so that's something to pay attention for. Nili is dropping a military count, so that's going to have some scary moments for him. But he's going to have some pikemen on the field, and more importantly, there is no more Elite Skirms for Lyx on the field, which is huge. Right now, this is enormous for Nili, that there is no Elite Skirms. Nili's got 2 relics right now, tries to get a conversion on one Knight. This guy's just gonna get picked off, another Knight gets converted. You can see that this is a converted Knight because there is +2 defense and bloodlines on it. Nili is slowly getting pushed back, which is something to monitor over the time. And despite the fact that he has an enormous eco lead, it doesn't seem to materialize just yet. I think Nili is lacking a little bit of production right now. Like, he's floating a lot of wood and gold, but he only has 2 ranges just now. I think he could really use a 3rd range. He's very heavy on stone. So, there is a chance we're actually going to see Nili dropping a castle somewhere. I think this would be the perfect reach for it, or this one, but I don't think Nili has the chance to get that done. And it seems like it's going to be transitioning into a pikeman plus Mangonel push here. Lyx is switching back into crossbows, so Nili is going to have to do the same thing here. Nili is without +2 defense, and now he has ballistics. That's a decent-ish mango shot. Mangonels, that's a beautiful Mangonel shot for Nili. Mangonels will still go down though, which is not ideal for Nili. It wasn't really a cost-efficient engagement for him, but he's holding on, and every moment he's holding on, he's going to capitalize on that 40 villagers lead that he's possessing. Also has handcart and also has heavy plow, so his eco is much better than Lyx's one. And I think this is the one where Nili is gonna see, okay, I have the military advantage, here is the castle. Where is that castle gonna be dropped? This will be the best spot for Nili, I believe, but that might be overly ballsy. But who am I to tell? That's going to be super aggressive. Mangonel pops out, trades 1 for 1, and I think that castle's gonna come up here. Remember that Nili wants to deny gold. Nili also sends a knight in here. Look at this. There is an overchop here from Lyx, or I'm not even sure if that's an overchop or just failed voling. And at the end of the day, we are gonna have quite a lot of villagers killed here as well. That's a nice little bonus for Nili. And if that castle goes up, I think that Lyx is gonna be in trouble, because that castle is going to be right in the face of Lyx. Nili isn't far away from going into Imperial Leader, and he could start adding Berserks, which could do some raiding damage on Lyx. Berserk will actually perform pretty decently against the Knights here, and the other problem that Lyx is facing is that he doesn't actually have anything that can deal with the pikes anymore. He just has like 2 or 3 skirms, but that isn't going to make it. Nili just going to start chopping the opponent's wood line over here casually, and it seems like we're gonna have arbalests now for Nili. He's about to click into Imperial, and a lot of people said Lyx is gonna free 0 this one. It doesn't seem like it, especially after the draft. Nili had an insane draft, and Nili's eco is just much better. I think Nili has a civ advantage in these games, but that is because Nili drafted so well. Lyx actually finds a neutral gold over here, and that's going to be the one that he takes. Nili sees the Knights, tries to get some conversions in. We might see one getting converted, but nope. Nili is gonna be unlucky with that. Nili is running out of gold himself, but he has another deposit over here, and he could even take this one if he wants to. And as I said, now it's going to be Imperial Age for Nili, so now the trick is keep making crossbows, get Arbalest upgrade, and for Nili he also needs to start adding battering rams because he wants to get kept ram right when he reaches Castle Age. or reach his Imperial. So if he actually gets Arbalest and Kevdram here, he's gonna be able to start stomping Lyx. He will also have to start making traps basically immediately, I would say, although he might actually squeeze in Conscription before he actually does that. There are multiple options here for Nili, I would say. Anyways, archery range goes down, which is a nice achievement for Nili because this decreases the amount of elite skirms that will be on the field. We got some villagers getting killed here from Nili, but it's double the villager count, and 33 army compared to 8. Nili is rocking over here, ladies and gentlemen, and 54 seconds to Imperial. I feel like this is going to be an imp GG from Lyx. Even if Nili wasn't going up to Imperial, Lyx might be dead here, because Lyx is barely having any gold access, and he's down to 66 villagers. There is a 2000 score lead very soon. And this is looking very bad for Lyx. In fact, this, as I said, should be an imp GG here. Nili is still heavy on stone, which means that he could drop another castle, and that second castle is gonna come up somewhere around over here, I would say. Like, super get out of my game castle. Lyx trying to do something here with some siege workshops, and Nili is making a blacksmith. Nili is actually making a second blacksmith. I think that's intentional, as Nili reaches Imperial, Lyx immediately resigns. Nili's got game number 1 here. All the Nili energies on chat actually paid off. This was an intentional second blacksmith, by the way. So, you might think it's a mistake because you started blacksmith. It's actually intentional, because Nili wants to, like, he's researching the archer armor right now, and he wanted that to start getting bracer in immediately. That's why he got that up. Nili indeed dominating in game number 1. I think he had the civ lead here. So, I'm not going to lie, Nili had a massive civ lead, but that comes from drafting well, and that is part of competitive Age of Empires. If you draft well, you're gonna be able to punish your opponent. Massive eco lead. If you just look at the KDs, it's actually pretty similar, but that eco difference is just enormous. 3,000 extra gold, 3,000 extra food, 7,000 extra wood. In every aspect, Nili's eco was just miles ahead of Lyx's eco. You can see that slow downfall of Lyx. And let's not forget that, indeed, I think Lyx had the better map. Nili had the better civ, but Lyx had the better map. So, Nili, game number 1 is in his hand. Here's the draft. He's actually going to use Vikings to perfection, and I feel like, as I said, Nili's draft seems much, much better. That Vikings pick for the third civilization is enormous. Well, it's not Yo, but it's actually Lyx. Yo just did the drafting for Lyx over here. Chinese is gone for Lyx. And now we're going to play one of the home maps for Lyx, which is Atacama or Kawasan. If it's Kawasan, we're probably going to see maybe Huns, maybe Italy. No, wait. Kawasan is Aztecs. Never mind. Never mind. Aztecs will be Kawasan, that's for sure. Something that Yo loves to play over there as well. So I assume that Yo and Lyx practiced a lot together, and Yo loves Aztecs on Kawasan. The other map, Atacama, is probably going to be a Slavs map, or maybe Huns map for Mr. Yo. Nili, if it goes to Atacama, I think it's Teutons. If it goes to Kawasan, it could be Byzantines, Berbers. Yeah, those are the two likely civs over here. Alright. Game number 2 is coming in pretty rapidly over here. So, Atacama it will be. Atacama is understandable for Lyx. He wants to play a very, very open game. But Nili's got Teutons for that, which is nice. I'm somewhat surprised that we're not seeing Khmer being picked here. But instead of actually evaluating stuff, let's just go into the next game. Lyx is playing Huns, Nili is playing Teutons. Interesting combination of civilizations. I didn't add the score, but Nili is leading one game here in this best of 5 in between Lyx and Nili. Nili is gonna be playing Teutons on the right side. In yellow left side is going to be Lyx as Huns in red. He's going to open scouts. As you see, he is actually going to leave one villager on gold, and the reason why you do that is because you need 200 gold to go up to Castle Age. You prefer to gather that before you actually take all your villagers off from gold, but it's not a rush, so you can just keep one villager in here, and that's going to be perfectly fine. Lyx opening up with double bit-axe. His scouts are going to be delayed a tiny bit. Lyx is not making scouts, which is some precious time lost here. Now, the thing is that Hunnic stables work faster, which is a huge advantage here for Lyx in terms of massing the scouts. But Nili, he's gonna be able to use that superior farming eco to his advantage here. And his scouts will pretty much be even to the scouts of Huns. They will be slower over time. That actually indeed is going to be a factor, that there is no husbandry for Teutons. So the mobility advantage will be on the side of the Hunnic player over here, and the production speed as well will also be on the side of the Hunnic player. But for now, Nili is going to be fine with defensive spearmen, and remember that Teutons will have the chance to tower the middle with Teuton towers, and that's not something that Huns can really deal with, and that would allow Nili to push away Lyx from all accessible wood. Plus, Nili can also go for defensive towers, and if you do that, you can fit 10 villagers inside, which is a nice little bonus, very underrated for Teutons on such an open map. Like, just like Khmer love to jump into their own houses, Teutons can do that with defensive towers, and that is actually pretty valuable. And it seems like Nili is going to play doubles Barracks Spearman. If this is a double Barracks Spearman play, it has to be a tower play combined with that. Because if you actually don't do towers here, your Spearman will just be outrun by your opponent. So the only way this works out for Nili is that if he actually is able to force engagements close to the base of Lyx, and for that you kind of need, I think, a few towers to actually follow that one up. Nili, one of the wood lines will be evacuated for the time being by Lyx's scouts. Nili is also doing heavy scouting over here and pulls up the Spearman. The Spearman alone will not really be able to do a lot of damage to villagers, so just Spearman raids won't really be a thing here for Nili, but he obviously wants to go for a Spearman heavy approach. Anyways, for now, Spearman will just try to trade against the spears of Lyx over here, and scouts will try to do damage, but here is the mobility advantage of Lyx. How would Celts be on this map? Not good enough. You have to tech into man-at-arms still, and it's better to just open scouts. Bulgarians might actually make a little bit more sense, honestly, because you can open fast man-at-arms. Celt man-at-arms is nice here, Celt Spearman is nice, but you can't really open man-at-arms with Celts very fast, and then your scouts are kind of mediocre, so Celts aren't great on this map. So, here is the push from Lyx, jumps the Spearman, loses one scout. Nili is going for the second stable. Nili is actually hitting the wood line over here, but he's just bumping into Spearman at the end of the day, and that is not looking good for Nili. Loses one villager, that's the first villager kill of the game. Lyx trying to find another vill to pick off. Some of the scouts are weak, so Nili is going to get away with this one, but the first villager kill has already occurred. But here is Bloodlines for Nili, which could turn things around. He's getting housed here pretty heavily. Lyx will never get housed, which is also an advantage with this save. This map is very micro heavy, and because of that, oftentimes you could actually end up getting housed. And because of that, Huns is also nice little bonus from them to have no need for houses. Anyways, Nili coming in here with forging as well. He's gonna go very heavy on those scouts, but one of those stables are idle for the time being. Bloodlines, he really wants to capitalize on that early on, because Lyx didn't invest into that one. So that's something to pay attention for, that if Lyx doesn't invest into Bloodlines, he's going to save quite a lot of resources, and he might actually progress towards Castle Age here. That could be a nice find from Lyx. Picking off a villager over there, scout's still alive for the time being. And it looks like Lyx already moved to the middle for lumberjacking. And here is Nili. This is what I was referencing to. What you can do with Teuton Spearman here, and one of the reasons why the Teutons actually are a reasonable save here, is actually go towers. I'm not a fan of Nili pulling weak villagers to make that tower, but it's not really a big deal right now. And if you just have defensive Spearman, you can actually force fights over here by getting towers up, which could be an interesting decision. This, by the way, I think is a logged crossing. So Nili, if he gets a tower up here, and he is gonna be able to get a tower up, as he's poking down villagers over here, and more importantly, he's gonna have Teutons available as well. So even if this tower goes up for Lyx, Nili is gonna have more firepower, so there should be no problem Nili dealing with that tower. What is a problem for Nili though is villagers getting killed on the berries. So upgrade-wise, Nili is missing scaleboarding. Lyx is having that one as well available, and Nili is down by one villager over here. Lyx killed 4, Nili only killed 3, but Lyx is going to be forced away from that woodland. As I said, Teuton towers are killing villagers very fast here. Like, that was just 2 villagers killed instantly from Lyx. And remember that the only way that Lyx is gonna get to this tower is by walking all the way through here. Lyx is actually getting fletching for himself, so he can get some more damage output from his tower. Lyx tries to jump the villager. This is insanely micro heavy here for Nili, but so far it's looking good for Nili here on this fight, and considering that Nili's base isn't getting pushed, that's also a nice little advantage for him. This is how you actually play Teutons here, exactly. Force fights, and it looks like Lyx will pull villagers to take this fight, and honestly, what Nili is doing here is pretty much a Lyx style gameplay. That's a little bit sloppy from Nili losing a villager over there repairing the tower, but this is actually a very, very Lyx-esque gameplay from Nili over here. Going for the towers, and now Lyx is gonna have to evacuate his wood line, and even though the mobility advantage will be on the side of Lyx, Nili is much more heavier on the spearman, it doesn't matter because Nili is dictating the tempo of the game. And that's going to be huge. These scouts with bloodlines could actually jump that spearman. There is still no defense upgrade for Nili. Also keep in mind that Nili's got more efficient farming eco because of the Teutons, so the cheap farms are really kicking in. Lyx is also without horse color, and for that many farms, lacking horse color is going to backfire heavily for Lyx, especially considering that he's low on wood. So Lyx is going to have serious problems reseeding those farms when they start running out, and many of them will start running out soon. And that's where Lyx's food eco could actually get crippled. So that's something to monitor as well. That Lyx's food eco could actually get crippled by the fact that he doesn't have a reliable wood income right now. This is going to be very inefficient very soon because these trees are almost gone. And then villagers will walk here. And without horse color, you have to reseed those farms pretty fast. As you see, many of these farms are running out of food. So Nili with the cheaper farms and having a horse color, that's a huge advantage over here. That being said, that could be quite a lot of villagers dead on those huntables. Nili's gonna have to force drop the food here. Like, you don't really want a villager dying with 20-25 food in here for him. Also, Nili, he has been mining this stone mine without a mining camp for quite a while, by the way. I'm just noticing that. But once again, he loses a few villagers back at home, but he's going to make up for it here. He can easily take that fight. Nili can... that's 4 spearmen. Maybe no longer. But it seemed like he might have been able to take that fight. 9 villagers killed from Lyx, or by Lyx, and 6 by Nili. This is not really a fight that Nili wants, but now honestly he could have committed to this. He lost so many scouts that might as well commit to that. Now he's fighting up hills against that spearman, which is not so nice. Villager count wise, Lyx now has a 4 villagers lead. So it's not that great anymore for Nili, and the mobility advantage is now showing for Lyx here. And really, these stone miners are making me freak out. They actually took like 100 stone from this stone mine, but actually making a mining camp. Anyways, Lyx got some scouts over here. Nili's farming eco is still a lot more efficient, but Nili's got 10 on food right now. Lyx has 26, which is something to pay attention for. Nili will actually wall that tower in. Eventually, Lyx's wood eco isn't going to be great. Like, Lyx is constantly forced to replace lumber camps, which is going to have an impact on his eco. Nili apparently is going to start... what is he up to? Is he planning to add archers? Yes, he is, because he has 5 villagers on gold. He's trying to add archers over here against the spearman of his opponent, and here comes another raid from Lyx. Now those scouts are very dangerous. Like, 1 or 2 defensive spearmen won't stop them because they actually have bloodlines and +1 defense and even +1 attack. Nili coming in on the other side. That villager is so low HP that a spearman could just poke him down. I don't think that Nili is focusing on this fight, but if he gets lucky, his spearman will just randomly poke down that villager. Indeed, 2 more villagers die from Lyx. Lyx still has the villager lead though, because he killed more from Nili. No one is actually contesting the pawns still. I think that at this point you could actually consider contesting the pawns if you are either of these players, because they're so uncontested that you're gonna have no trouble getting some fishing ship out, and it's going to show in your eco. Still, spearman versus spearman fights, upgrades are even on both, but really something that you have to pay attention for is that look at Lyx's wood eco. This is what I was referencing to, and this is why this tower is so important. Anyways, Nili's defensive towers is something I like. Once again, 10 villagers can fit inside, so it actually gives you a huge bonus in terms of defense, given that it actually goes up because the scouts come back to retaliate against Nili, and that's another villager that is gonna get picked off from Nili. But archers are coming in, and archers and spears could be something that Lyx struggles against. I don't see an archer range from him just yet. First skirm just comes out. does have fletching, but no archer defense upgrades for the time being. Once again, these villagers are quite exposed here. Nili with some quick walls. 2 more villagers on the hunt are actually super exposed. 1 spearman isn't going to make it. So that should be 2 dead villagers from Nili if Lyx micros this right. In the meanwhile, we have a massive engagement over here. Archers doing their best to pick off villagers. Villager losses are now pretty much even. Lyx lost 13 villagers, killed 14. Also, a lot of scouts actually died in this engagement, so it pretty much ends up being an even villager count after all this time, but Lyx's resources are looking much better. Lyx is actually 30 on food and he's getting close to Castle Age. Whereas for Nili, it's 26 on food. He is having a few villagers on stone as well, but he's kind of far away from Castle Age. And first to night might actually win the game here, especially with the faster working Hunnic stables. So Nili needs to be careful because Lyx is about to go Castle Age here. Lyx also indeed getting a dock up here. That's, as I said, completely understandable at this point, because you can actually get some of the extra food income for yourself over here, and it's not like it's a huge investment anymore. You have a strong eco, so you might as well be able to afford a dock here. Anyways, Lyx is on the way to Castle Age. Nili still very far away, very far away right now. That being said, the Castle Age investment is enormous, so Nili, if he goes full feudal, he might actually be able to carve out a villager lead for himself here, but it's tricky, because these scouts could actually pick these villagers off, and even if Nili kills villagers, Lyx is going to have fishing eco working for himself. In the meanwhile though, Lyx, as you see, his wood income is awful, and he's running out of farms. So this is going to be something to monitor. Yes, he's gonna be in Castle Age, but his wood income is so bad, and as I said, Nili going full feudal, he might actually be able to overrun Lyx here in terms of military numbers, and that's a lot of villagers that could die from Lyx here. Like, quite a few of them are exposed to just a few scouts getting some hits on. Lyx is very close to Castle Age though, and just a few knights could clean this entire thing up. And Nili is gonna be in trouble if Lyx gets to Castle Age, because Nili is not even close. And it's not like he's just gonna buy himself up. Nili has a 2 villagers lead right now, but he hasn't even clicked up to Castle Age, so that's not going to be enough. And Lyx will also be able to get some fishing eco for himself. And that is a villager killed over here. Nili is doing quite a lot of damage to Lyx's eco, but Lyx has enough stockpiles to get like triple stable knights in here, and this is gonna clean everything up that Nili has. Nili is gonna go for a third stable, and this is the moment when Nili is gonna be like, oh shoot, he's up. And that's a problem. That's a huge problem for Nili right now, because the Castle Age units will beat every feudal age units, and from this point on, Nili needs some insanely good fights to be able to achieve anything in this game, because the knights will clean up everything he has. And Hunnic stables even work faster, so Lyx is gonna be on 10-15 knights in a matter of seconds. In fact, Lyx is getting a market up, so he might even sell some stone here because he's floating quite a lot. Let's see what Nili is up to. Nili is still making scouts. That is just a slow downward spiral, to be honest. The problem is with this is that, as I said, he's going to be constantly forced to take bad engagements. We have seen people winning this one with full feudal. I think yesterday we had a series where we had full feudal. But it's going to be awfully hard. Yeah, that's a good point, Robo. He could try denying Lyx from gold, but I feel like Lyx could TC this one. Like, Lyx, if he keeps 3 knights in here, he can actually defend his villagers until he gets a TC up. And he's gonna be fine with that gold now. I don't think he can actually deny all the gold from Lyx. It's just not enough. And there's going to be a Cav Archer as well. That's also a reasonable decision from Lyx. Cav Archers could be very annoying for Nili to deal with. And Nili is gonna go up though, and that's something to keep monitoring. Nili is doing a decent job raiding, and that forces Lyx to defend. So Lyx wasn't really able to attack. Nili tries to stonewall, beautiful quick wall over there. There is still quite a lot of holes on his wall though. Like, if he actually plugs this hole in with a house, this is with a stone wall, and then drops 2 houses in here as well, he's gonna have his front secured. And that would buy himself some time, and Nili is gonna click up as well. And the Teuton Knights will actually have the extra armor, which is something to keep in mind. That being said, Nili is losing quite a lot of wheels. He's at 58. Lyx also lost quite a lot, to be honest, and Lyx doesn't have an efficient wood eco, which is always something to keep in mind. So, yes, Nili might have less villagers, but Nili's eco is actually a little bit more efficient, as surprising as it sounds. So, Yeah, the problem is this for Nili. That's actually a huge problem. Like, Nili's entire food eco is now idle. Lyx, by the way, got a dock up and gets nothing out of it, apparently. So, this is a huge problem. This is a huge problem for Nili, and as I said, first to castle usually wins the game here. And especially with Hunnic stables that even produce knights faster, Lyx can overrun Nili very fast here. So, yeah. For a moment it seemed like Nili might have a small chance, and if he was walled like this, maybe he would have a small chance. But basically, knights are just running in through the front door. So, like, even if Nili gets up to castle age, he doesn't actually have food to make knights. And even if he makes 1 or 2 knights, it's not going to be changing anything here. He's trying to get back to his farms, but that's feels like desperation here. And indeed, I feel like this is out of control for Nili. He delayed castle age too long. He tried going for archers, but this investment was too much to just pull off, and he didn't really get any major return value from it. And because of that, at the end of the day, Nili is going to be beaten into castle age. If he was walled here, I would say maybe there's a chance, but now he has lost way too many villagers. He's got no eco. He's trying to get pikemen, but there is way too many knights here. By the way, those pikemen will have insane melee armor because they're 2-turn pikemen. But at this point, Lyx can switch into cav archers. Lyx still doesn't have a reliable wood income, by the way. Lyx could actually argue, like, you could argue to make a mangonel here and try taking down that tower, so you actually get reasonable wood income. Nili coming in here with some more pikes, but once again, there is enough knights here to deal with a few pikemen. This is not going to be enough for Nili, or is it? Those pikes are pretty beastly in terms of melee armor, and they took a rather reasonable engagement here. The thing is that Nili is still losing that barracks, trying to get some pikemen out. There's already scorpions from Lyx. This is too far gone, and indeed, Nili taps out. So, Lyx wins his own home map, and based on what we're seeing over here, I would anticipate Nili winning his own home maps and Lyx winning his own home maps, which means that the first Arabia game being won by Nili could actually be a huge one. Alright. So, Lyx, way better KD, but that mainly came from Castle Age. And this is a difference. 2k extra food, 2k extra gold for Lyx. Nili focused a lot on stone, and I guess he was selling some stone as well, but that didn't really show in his eco. And this Castle Age difference is not something that you can afford a map like this. And just look at that. This is exactly showing what I always reference to. It's like, faster Castle Age pretty much beats or wins the game. Lyx started losing stuff when he was going up. Lyx was obviously losing stuff here. But then when Castle Age kicks in, boom. The first few knights will be so devastating that, like, spearmen don't really stop knights unless the knights have no upgrades. And with that, we got an even scoreline over here. Next game will be on one of Nili's home maps, which is either Cattails or Lowland. So, let's see. What we have here for Nili is a 2-turn loss, and we have a Hunnic win for Lyx. So, if we are going Cattails, it should be Saracens. If we are going Lowland, it should be Cumans for Nili. I have no idea what Lyx is going to play for Cattails, and as I said, this game was okay for Lyx because Huns are pretty much on par with Teutons. But the rest of the maps, I feel like Lyx has a civ disadvantage. Like, you could argue for Aztecs on Kawasan, but it's somewhat situational. And I feel like Nili could deny the relics, and in that case, Aztecs aren't that amazing on Kawasan. Lowland, I'm not sure what Lyx plans to pick. It seems like it could end up being Britons. Or maybe Slavs. But it's hard to say. Cattails feels like it's an Italian map for Lyx, but Italians are pretty bad for Cattails, honestly, compared to other civs. Alright, so We're coming in with game number 3 over here, and that is going to be on Cattails, ladies and gentlemen. Nili's potentially best home map, a map that all the GL team loves to play, and we have a surprise here. I don't like this. I don't like this at all. Nili's playing Byzantines. I was thinking about this one, and the thing is that with Byzantines, you actually go Fire Galleys. And I'm going to tell you a story here. When Jordan played... I don't know who Jordan played against. I think it was Classic Pro. Jordan versus Classic Pro, Jordan went for Byzantines as well. This is absolutely a GL strategy. Same thing that Jordan did. But I don't like it. And I was mentioning that many times during that game, is that Jordan didn't win that game because he went for Byzantine Fire Galleys. It's because he won because he had a better Castle Age time than his opponent did. And I feel like this is a bad decision from Nili over here. He could get punished for it because Fire Galleys, even though these are Byzantine Fire Galleys and they are really nice, the Galleys should be able to dominate them in these blocked areas. Also, you can actually add a demo if you are Lyx, so you can actually sink some of those. What Nili can only capitalize on is selling his stone and going for a fast Castle Age here. Because if he gets to a fast Castle Age, he's gonna be able to get fire ships, and fire ships will win the fight for him. That's also a nice move from killing the fishing eco, and it looks like Lyx doesn't know where his opponent is, and Nili is going to be the first one hitting the fishing eco of his opponent here. So yeah, I feel like Nili is supposed to be playing galleys here as well. That being said, Lyx is actually misplaying the galley play here quite badly. Those galleys just got destroyed here right as they popped out. In fact, Lyx isn't even making a lot of galleys. This might be the easiest water control for Nili ever. Because it seems like he's about to win water after like 3 minutes. And the thing is that once you have fire galleys here, the galleys will not be able to pop out and run away, so it doesn't really matter for Lyx. Like, he's gonna have a galley that pops out. I'm not even sure if he has fletching. He doesn't have fletching either. So, Lyx is actually going galleys, but this is kind of a potato galley play, to be honest. And honestly, this is a huge win here for Nili. This shouldn't have worked for Nili. Like, if you execute the galley play right, the fire galley play isn't supposed to work. That being said, I'm not a big fan of Italians here either for Lyx. And see, this is exactly what is supposed to happen. If you actually had Saracens for faster firing rate, or Portuguese for more HP, or Berbers for faster speed, you would even have a much better chance here. But this is exactly what Lyx was supposed to do. But with fletching, potentially a better Civ for this one as well. So, I'm not a big fan of Nili's strategy, but it's working out because Lyx apparently hasn't had a lot of practice on this game. Or on this map. Or if he practiced, he practiced different build orders. Because the thing is that it kind of seems like Lyx is trying to do what other pro players did in their games, but there is just ingredients missing. And you see that he's already making a stable. And Nili, what Nili should do here is that he should wall himself up. He knows that he's about to win water, and when you're about to win water, you're just gonna wall your base up, because you know that your opponent is going to push the land. Also, worth pointing out that the two players are very close to each other on the left, which means that Nili only needs to prioritize the left side walling, because it's very unlikely that his opponent is going to attack from the right anytime soon. Sometimes you spawn on the other side of the opponent and then you have to wall both sides. Here, priority is on the left side of your walls. Now, the thing is that Nili is going to see the spearman killing his scout. So if you take a look at Nili's POV, he sees the sable. He knows exactly that there is going to be potentially knights pushing him because his opponent is already going up. But Nili's got 2 archers, and these 2 archers could be so devastating. There's absolutely no defense here for Lyx. He would need to make a scout to make up for this one. Nili is still saving his fishing eco, and this is looking extremely good for Nili. And, well, here it comes. These archers can be super annoying right now for Lyx. And as I said, I don't know what Lyx's original plan here was, but Nili is very good on this map. Lyx kind of feels like he didn't really have a perfect game plan here, or maybe he had a game plan, but then he realized, hey, my prepared strategy for this map isn't good. Because once you start seeing other expert players play on this map, you realize, hey, my strategy isn't going to be good. And look at that. Lyx will be forced to make an archer just to clean up those skirm or archers. Yeah, the better way to do this would have been to just make a scout, because a scout can actually clean this one up. Unless Nili has a spearman here. And Nili is also going up to Castle Age. He's going to be delayed but Lyx is gonna have his forward voyager cleaned up. I think this was meant to do either forward siege workshop or monastery. Nili is gonna have water control. He would want to spread out the fire galleys, but it seems like Lyx is pretty much giving up on the water at this point. So Nili can just add fishing eco himself and start capitalizing on the water. Lyx looks like he's in trouble. Like, Lyx could actually try taking water back, but he doesn't have ships, so it's not like he's going to upgrade anything here. And it looks like Lyx is going to save that will for the time being. Scaleboarding on the way for Nili as well. Takes a fight against the skirms here, down hills. There's still 4 archers here, so this might be winnable for Nili, especially with good micro. Forward Voyager is still alive. And there is no hole here. I don't think there is a hole on Nili's base. I like that he's sending a few Voyagers to shorefish. That makes some sense for Nili. He's gonna have water, so he's gonna be starting to spam out fishing eco right now. He has a 6 Voyagers lead already. He killed more Wills, and he also has extra fishing eco here. This is looking extremely good for Nili, and Nili is a beast on this map. And the way that the tournament works is that you always pick one home map, and then the opponent bans. So Nili always picks cattails first, and their opponent just can't ban cattails because of that. If it was ban first, everybody would ban cattails against Nili, because Nili's best map by far is this map. He's really doing a really good job with this, and now he's going camels against the knights. Cheap Byzantine camels will also be beneficial over here. This is a little bit of a sloppy micro here from Nili throwing away all those archers to the TC fire, but he's possessing a 4 Voyagers lead without any problems. And as I said, the water control is going to show as well. Nili, what he needs to make sure is that his opponent is not redocking, and boy, Lyx is redocking, getting the war galley upgrade in. Nili is going to find that dock. This dock is going to achieve nothing because there is going to be a war galley upgrade, but there is no ships to actually be upgraded. So, especially against Byzantine fire galleys, like, Nili is gonna take that dock down before any ship pops out of it. In fact, Nili might even go for his own war galley upgrade if he thinks that, hey, my opponent is going to start contesting the water over here. Lyx will try to loop all the way around to try and hit the other side of Nili's base, which makes sense because he might think, okay, Nili walled the left side, but maybe not the right side because the right side is so far away from me. But Nili actually was prepared for this. There is obviously a hole here. And I'm not sure if Nili is going to look here because there is a lot of other places where Nili wants to look at. He's gonna be able to clean that up with 2 or 3 camels, but I feel like that's gonna be a hole where they can run through. Anyways, another dock is up for Lyx, but once again, he's not making a single ship. But first fire ship is about to come out. In the meanwhile, though, Nili has a bunch of camels inside the base of Lyx, and indeed, that is obviously a hole. So Nili is gonna have to run for his life over here. He can make 2 camels and clean this one up without any problems, but it's not going to be ideal. And now the camels find this Voyager, which is going to prevent the docking. Nili still no war galley for himself, but he has the numbers on the water. For now, camels will try looping around and try to hit the wood line or the gold eco of Lyx over here. And Lyx is just trying to snipe fishing ships here. Fire ships are very good for doing that. You might even make an argument for demo. How is it same Voyager count? It's these, actually... good question. I have no idea how it's same Voyager count. It's probably because Nili was 1 TC for quite a while and just added TC number 2. Lyx already added that second TC a lot earlier, so Lyx was on 2 TCs for a longer amount of time, basically. That's why it's even Voyager count. That being said, Nili is going to be happy booming up on the fishing ships, but he's got a lot of eco to fix. Like, this is not something that you would actually want for your Voyagers. Hello? Nili's gonna fix idols here pretty badly. So Lyx going for TC number 3 over here, and Nili's gonna go for the Monk and Siege push here. The Monk and Siege push is something that Nili used to defeat Hart. This was with Saracens. Now it's a Byzantine play from him, but that doesn't really matter here. That's not really a great TC spot for Lyx, to be honest, and that TC might go down immediately. Lyx, by the way, has no idea about that siege push coming. He sees the monastery, and it's not like he's gonna be able to stop this one easily. Random fire ship will try to burn some Voyagers, and Lyx actually getting the water back slowly, so Nili's gonna have to go for war galley. Nili still has the fire ship advantage. So he should still be able to win water, but there are some demos over here. Honestly, with all these blocks over here on the water, demos aren't that super efficient, and Nili is using a split-up formation here as well. Baits the demo with one fire ship, that's exactly how he's supposed to be doing it. And there is going to be a defensive siege workshop coming in from Lyx. Lyx is a free villager's lead now, despite the fact that Nili has extra fishing eco, but Nili is only on 2 TCs, and I think that he has a lot of TC idle time, as you see. Only 13 villagers on food, that's not really enough for 2 TCs plus camo production. Lyx will be coming in with a manganol here himself. Nili getting horse color just now. Nili has Boso, which is a nice little advantage over Lyx, and now Nili is gonna have water control, like real water control. So next step, as we have a 1-for-1 trade over here, next step for Nili is to make sure that his opponent isn't redocking, and he can do that by patrolling the fire ships on the shoreline. Like, split your fire ships up and make sure Lyx is not redocking, because this fishing eco is going to be very important for Nili for booming purposes. It's 22 to 6 in terms of army numbers, and that TC is going down quite rapidly. Lyx trying to defend with monks over here, and there is no redemption on those monks just yet. Manganol pops out. Nili is going to snipe the Manganol, but the Manganol is going to get its shot out, and there is also 2 conversions from Lyx. He deletes the camo before it would be converted back by Nili. Another camo gets converted, and now this camo gets converted back. Oh, those monk arenas, and now monks are out of monk juice, so this is the moment where Nili feels like, okay, I'm gonna need to push this one because the monks are unable to convert. Monks will jump into the TC though. The TC is set ablaze, so you could actually make an argument for pushing this one now, because the monks aren't able to convert, so you can just go for some raiding damage here. Over here, Manganol not coming in for Lyx just yet, and Lyx is losing gold miners, so his gold eco isn't going to be that super great, and Lyx pops out of the TC with the monks. Camels fighting down hills, monks healing each other over here. One monk goes down, second monk goes down. I think this was value for Nili here, and Lyx is out of wood. Lyx has to buy some wood because he's unable to repair that TC anymore. Needs to get some more monks over here is Nili. He's also gonna pick up that relic. And in the meanwhile, he possesses a 6 villagers lead now. So he's gonna have to focus on pushing on land. There is going to be a defensive castle from Lyx, which is, I think, the right decision here. This siege and monk push will be eventually stopped by a castle, so Nili is not gonna be able to push. So what now for Nili? He needs to fix his eco, I believe, because he's got a lot of idols. Nili's got 9 idols constantly. He needs to spread out his fire galleys, and then potentially progress towards Imperial and go for Arbalest. Or maybe even like a skirmisher heavy play could also work for Nili, like Arbalest and Skirm, because it's the ideal composition for Italians in late game is probably the Arbalest. So if you go for Skirm, especially with the cheap Byzantine Skirms, you could actually get ahead of them. Of course, if you go Skirm, your opponent can still go Condottieri, which is something to pay attention for. But yes, something like Skirm Camel can be reasonable over here. Anyways, Imperial Age is coming in here for Nili, capitalizing on the cheap imp of Byzantines over here. And I think one of the players actually got Atonement. I think it was Lyx. So now he can convert monks, and Nili's gonna go Arbalest here. Yeah, that Camel was an MVP over there indeed. Lyx is going to say, okay, I'm gonna gladly take that relic. Nili has no relics, I believe, and he's gonna start getting Arbalests out on the field. His eco is slightly better, and that Boso missing for Lyx hurts pretty badly. And more importantly, Lyx is nowhere close to Imp. So what Nili can do is just get Orbs out, get a castle up somewhere around over here, make traps, and take that castle down. It's also going to be pretty hard to push Nili away from a forward position, because he's gonna have the extra HP on the buildings. Alright, so that is a university over here from Nili. And, well, he's going to say, okay, that's my relic, and he's not gonna be able to take it. Anyways, Lyx is also collecting quite a lot of relics here. He's bringing relic number 1, relic number 2, tried relic number 3 over here, but Nili is going to yoink that. And it looks like we're going to have a second castle, so it seems like Lyx is just going to try and fortify his position over here in this corner, but map control isn't super huge for him. Lyx is on 2 relics in a matter of seconds, Nili is going to be on 1, I believe. And we got 1 relic over here that's unclaimed and 1 over here, so that's a total of 5. So, yeah, this is a nice castle here for Lyx. Secures this gold mine, secures the northern flank. And here is Nili with a castle drop. This is a little bit late because ideally you would want to be able to start making traps immediately. So this is just a tiny bit too late. But I understand why Nili didn't want to risk moving out to the villagers faster. And that castle is going to go up somewhere around over there. Lyx indeed has a pretty unbalanced eco. He's just about to buy himself up. And yeah, the only thing that's missing for Nili here is that castle that's already up, or that is supposed to be already up. A ram is gonna go down because Nili wants to save that range so he can actually keep making ARPs here on the front line, and there is indeed the castle. But Lyx is already on the way as well. Nili still is gonna have a nice little advantage in the trap war because he's gonna have stronger buildings and he's gonna be able to get traps out a little bit faster. This is a tricky scenario for Nili. Not all of those villagers are actually working because there is not enough surface. But you don't really want to destroy that siege workshop either. And it looks like we're going to have elite skirms from Lyx. On this one, sneaky villagers on the right side coming in. Nili might actually spot this one. I would love to see Nili actually stonewalling his base. Like, this would be a perfect spot for stonewalls. For now, Lyx is just scouting the map for himself, missing out on that relic on the north, but otherwise he has a very good vision. And Nili, he needs to make traps instantly here. Traps? Yes, indeed, here comes the traps. Should be even elevation, but it is still going to be an imp advantage for Nili. He should be able to get 2 traps out before Lyx can do anything. If Nili gets chemistry, he could even start making bombard cannon pretty fast. Nili indeed a little bit low on gold here. He's missing out on that gold mine, which is quite unfortunate. Only has 13 on gold, which is a little bit too few for a late game like this. He's got 55 on wood, so he could actually take 10 villagers from wood and go on to gold. Nili could theoretically go cannon galleon as well later on, but that's not something that we are going to see anytime soon. This is a nice move from Nili. He can use the fire ships to break down that wall relatively fast, and then he can actually march in with the ARBs. That's one of the problems that you're facing when you lose water on this map, is that the opponent's ships will be able to destroy your walls over here. How do cataphracts do against Jambos? Even numbers, cataphracts should get an easy win, because remember that the Genoese crossbow bonus damage isn't applying against cataphracts. So basically, cataphracts do quite decently against Genoese crossbows. Anyways, Lyx is doing Lyx things over here. We have some villager walling in shenanigans, trying to save that will as Nili is using 1 villager to chase it down. And so far, this villager is about to die. Nili's got 2 traps out. Repairs are coming in for Lyx. First trap is out. Somewhat surprised that Nili isn't adding a trap number 3. He's making a bombard cannon now, which also makes sense, but I think a 3rd trap would actually make a lot of sense for Nili. Making outpost himself as well. Outpost rushing each other. And that villager is eventually going to die. Nili's gonna have to replace the docks as well if he actually wants to get a good benefit from that fishing eco. That is not enough villagers to repair for Lyx, by the way. And Nili's gonna have bombard cannons coming out for both of his siege workshops, but ARBs are in, and this is going to be causing a lot of headache for Lyx. There is no ballistics on Nili's ARBs though, which is something to pay attention for. And it looks like Lyx's aggression here isn't really going to be anything useful anytime soon. Castle still standing, but bombard cannons are in right now. That's actually a nice hill for Lyx to fire down hills to the traps to. But Nili is doing an excellent job here, pushing this castle on the left side. And yeah, honestly, Lyx Condottieri could actually make sense for him. He's very, very heavy on the skirmishers right now. Nearly bringing in another bombard cannon very soon. I feel like he still needs a 3rd trap here, just to finish that castle off. This castle is slowly going down, but not fast enough. Or at least not fast enough to my taste. Nili getting some more ranges up on the north, so he feels like there is a push coming here. He sees the villager even, so he should be able to see, okay, this guy is gonna start pushing me from the north. Military numbers are actually better for Lyx, but Lyx is pushing out the bombard cannon now, trying to stop those traps, but this castle is gonna go down because Lyx is out of stone. I think if Lyx doesn't run out of stone, he could have actually repaired that castle until the bombard cannon takes down the traps. Nili is actually going to win that trap war over there. And the castle, with all the arbalasts garrisoned inside, it's gonna do insane damage to those skirms. Quite a lot of skirms by the dust over here. Nili getting guilds for himself quite early on. This is actually nice because eventually the map is gonna run out of gold here. And now Hussar raids will actually start to happen. There is no more castles. Actually, there is one more castle for Lyx, but I don't think he's gonna have a lot of Genoese crossbows. So Hussars here would actually be a pretty nice play from Nili. Tries to do bombard cannon dancing over here. Once again, skirms. These skirms are trying to snipe the bombard cannon, and I'm not sure if they will be successful doing so. Nili could potentially save that bombard cannon. Nope. He's gonna lose the bombard cannon, but Lyx threw away his entire army to kill one bombard cannon, so you really have to question if this was worth it. Because, yes, resource-wise it was probably worth it, but in reality, many of those skirms actually lost their life. Over here, there is still quite a lot of elite skirms on the field for Lyx. On the north, there isn't really much happening as Lyx is trying to get a stable up, but there is eventually going to be a wolf, delaying that one for the time being. And, well, Lyx still trying to trap that castle down. Nili's got 7,000 HP on that castle, so he should be able to hold this one without any problems. So there is scale barding as well for Lyx. Nili still seems to struggle a little bit at cleaning or finishing this game off. Redemption for Lyx tries to convert the bombard cannons over here. That trap needs to go down if you're Nili, and it will go down. And Nili very close to getting Hussar in. I think he doesn't want to show his Hussar before he actually gets to reasonable numbers, but now Lyx sees them, so it's like whatever for Nili. Nili could really think about getting some cannon galleons, and like he could actually take these buildings down over here for him. So, bombard cannons on the way, and that's a lot of bombard cannons. It's going to be tricky for Lyx to micro his army against that many bombard cannons. And Nili is actually pretty good at dodgeball as well, so bombard cannon micro is something that he really loves to do. Let's take a look. That was actually a nice bombard cannon hit over there. Once again, this is good enough for Nili to slowly push back those skirms, and those bombard cannons aren't really going to stop. I think one of them actually died to the skirms, but now there are Hussar on the field. There is actually no blast furnace available for Byzantines, and now we're gonna have Kebdram. It's a slow and steady death for Lyx over here. Nili's archer range here is gonna be denied, but Nili has now doubled the army, and Nili is also pushing that gold mine quite relentlessly, which is going to cause problems for Lyx. Lyx has 48 villagers on gold, by the way. 48 villas on gold, and he's floating 1k food, 1k gold. Nili also is floating a huge amount of gold here, but Lyx's resource bank is just insane right now. Nili, however, very close to winning this game over here because Lyx, he's gonna have nowhere to go very soon. This is gonna be achieving nothing over here for Lyx. Tries to get a few light cap in, but that's barely gonna do anything to Nili. Whereas Nili's direct push here is getting stronger and stronger. Theses will start going down. Nili finally getting conscription. That's a little bit late here. And Nili says, get out of my tournament. I wanna play in the decider games. And with that, he's gonna drop a castle right in the face of Lyx over here. That's a little bit ballsy, but I think it's gonna go up. And now skirmishers will be on the field, and it's Byzantine skirms, even though they don't have the armor right now. And for whatever reason, Nili is actually doing chainmail instead of the actual archer armor. It's cheap Byzantine skirms, so it's not like it's going to cause a lot of problems over here. I know it's a best of 5, but that doesn't mean that I can't say that Nili wants to go into the main event and just wants to say, okay, get out of my tournament here. There is still a decider game here in this series if Nili wins this. So Nili is just going to move to match point here. And I think he's doing enough damage here to Lyx to slowly grind him down. 190 pop against 110, and Lyx trying to save that day, but that's not going to happen. Nili taking game number 3 over here, bringing this one into a match point, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. Many people said Lyx is gonna 3-0 Nili, but well, maybe not. Nili actually leading, and this is what I said at the beginning of the series. I expected 3-2 for Lyx, with Nili winning his own home maps and Lyx winning his own home maps and Arabia. What happened so far? Lyx won his only home map, Nili won his first home map as well, but Nili won Arabia, and that Arabia game could actually be so important here, because all Nili needs to do is just win his own home map now. Like, even if he loses on Lyx's home map, he's going to be perfectly fine. He just needs to win on his own home map. His eco was far better by the end of the game, just way better eco, but it was mostly about the fact that he was faster to Imperial and he can start, like, when you're faster to Imperial by this much, you can just start grinding down the opponent's buildings, and Lyx just lost map control. And when the map control was lost, he had to idle his wheels and slowly lose all those Voyagers when the army starts pushing into his base. So, with that, we are off for game number 4 over here. Nili versus Lyx. I'm going to quickly show you the draft because the next game is about to start. So, Italian's gone for Yo, or well, it's actually Lyx, but Yo did the draft. And Byzantine's gone for Nili. The other home map for Lyx is actually going to be Kawasan. So, in Kawasan, I estimate the Aztecs to be picked, and I have no idea if Nili's gonna pick Saracens or Cumans or what the original plan is. Probably Cumans will go for Lowland, which is, by the way, a dangerous play for a decider game, because Lowland would be the decider game if Lyx wins this one. So Saracens or Berbers? Maybe Saracens. I can see Saracens working here for Nili, and what you could do, if you are Nili, with Saracens on this map, Kawasan, is go for a market, buy yourself up to Castle Age. This way you beat the Aztec player into Castle Age, you can go for Knights, secure the middle, and prevent the Aztec player from grabbing the relics. But it's Berbers. Okay. So, Aztecs versus Berbers over here in what could be the decider game. Alright, so welcome everybody, this is gonna be game number 4 in a best of 5 between Nili and Lyx. This is Kawasan. Nili is playing Berbers in yellow on the left, right side is going to be Lyx playing as Aztecs in red. Why is Aztecs a good civ on this map? Because you have all 5 relics in the middle. If Aztecs get the middle, they will be able to grab 5 relics, and that's an insane gold income for them. Nili has a pretty bad map over here. Usually Kawasan is very vulnerable. Nili's got a super open Kawasan generation. In comparison to Lyx, if you take a look at Lyx's base, he's got a very vulnerable map. This gold isn't great, but at least the left side and the right side are vulnerable easily, and there is a secure gold at the back. In fact, if this wall was here, this would be a very, very safe gold. Not the best map I've ever seen for Lyx, but it's definitely better than Nili's map. So, with that, Nili is gonna open scouts. Normally, I'm not a big fan of the scouts opening in Kawasan, because your opponent is very likely to be fully walled very soon. Here, Nili apparently just wants to go for a very aggressive opening. Makes some sense, but defensive spearmen will be more than satisfactory to deal with this one. And we might see cheap Berber Knights in Castle Age. That could be the game plan for Nili. It seems like it's going to be Scout and Skirm to open the day with. None of the players actually pushing the water. And for now, it's going to be Eagle and Archer for Lyx. Stopping that is extremely hard. I've mentioned that so many times. Eagle and Archer is one of the best builds in Empire Wars. Nili trying to out-micro that Eagle, but that's not going to succeed anytime soon. Indeed, Nili actually managed to kill a villager. I'm not sure where. Probably somewhere around this part of the map. We are going to have an archer picked off as well, which is a nice little value for Nili. And I think that here Lyx has to add in like 1 or 2 spearmen to accompany his army of eagles and archers, so he can actually push with them. Nili isn't really committing anything to walling, which is a dangerous, dangerous move here. So scouts will try to actually do some damage to Lyx's eco, but Lyx is fully walled. I'm not a big fan of the scouts play on Kawasan. I think that the maps are vulnerable enough that scouts won't do much. That's my main problem. Anyways, Nili is going to wall like this. He's even going to mill his deer, but his gold mine is dangerously exposed. This is insanely hard to wall, but he doesn't have a very safe gold no matter what. What is the advantage of Berbers on this map? No idea, honestly. Faster moving ships and cheap knights, but I don't know what Nili is thinking with Berbers here. I'm not a big fan of this Civ selection, especially against Aztecs. It could work, like cheap Berber knights is something I can imagine working, as Nili lost 1 villager, so the villager count once again is going to end up being even. And yeah, faster moving ships can actually be something to consider. You can drop the dock and start fishing. And it seems like Lyx isn't really going to focus on fishing, but here's the problem for Nili. Lyx is going into castle, and Nili is going to be beaten very hard into castle age. Lyx is going to go triple Barracks Eagles. Triple Barracks Eagles, secure the middle, drop a monastery, pick up 5 relics, and Lyx is going to have an insane eco lead. 5 relics with Aztecs is like an insane amount of gold. And that's what you want to prevent if you're actually playing Aztecs or against Aztecs in this one. Lyx indeed selling the stone to go up. That's actually the smart play to do. With Aztecs, you want to beat your opponent into castle age here. This map is vulnerable enough to pretty much do a fast castle-ish strategy. And then get the middle. That's all that matters. This hill is even in a hill. And because it's on a hill, it's insanely hard to attack against. Because you will be fighting up hills in many cases. Now, Nili's gonna pick this army off, which is nice. But what is Nili gonna do with this army? I don't know. Now, Nili, on the other hand, isn't far away from castle age himself without selling his stone. And that's going to be interesting. Like, Nili is going to be beaten by 2 minutes into castle age, but the Berber Night Flood is going to be something to consider. Don't ask me where the hole is here. I have no idea how those scouts got inside. Like, that's not a hole. That palisade actually has HP on it. Where the hell is the hole? Or wasn't that palisade foundation started? I have no idea what happened there, but Nili is gonna be screaming from happiness here. Nili has to be screaming from happiness. This foundation wasn't started. That's huge for Nili. 5 villagers killed. And Lyx, indeed, is behind by 10 villagers, even though he's up to castle age. And remember, the problem is that Lyx is gonna pick up the relics, and that's going to compensate for all the villagers lost. That's the problem for Nili. What Nili has to do now is flood the map with cheap Berber Knights, and indeed it's triple stable Knights. That was the game plan the whole time for Nili. One of the things that you can do against Aztec monks is just overrun them with knights, especially considering that it's going to take some time until Lyx gets the monks out. So what Nili has to do is get the cheap Berber knights rolling. By the way, Lyx doesn't know about Nili's fish, which is a nice little untouched piece of eco. There is a scout here as well for Nili with forging, and he could try picking off that villager, which would be huge, because it would prevent the siege workshop from being dropped, just like that. Nili, that's huge. That's a huge will pick if that happens, and it does happen. Delaying the siege workshop. There is a monk coming in here for Lyx, and he's gonna start picking up the relics. But Nili, very close to getting decent amount of knights. He's probably gonna delete, maybe delete the house here and then unleash the knights. He waits until he has like 6, 7, 8, and then move out. Why is everyone using no snow mod? Because we don't want our eyes burned out. Nice quick force from Nili. Nili, honestly, might be playing the best tournament performance in the last 5 years from him. Well, maybe not 5 years, because I haven't seen Nili playing before 2019. But of the last 2 years, this villager is gonna get converted, by the way. Somebody's gonna have to lead, by the way. But of the last 2 years, Nili is actually playing insane here. He really prepared, and he feels like he's gonna be able to qualify, and he's on the doorstep of qualifying here. Obviously, he would need to play in the Decider series, but we talked about this before, that the opponents in the Deciders would be either Say My Name or Vivi. And I feel like either of those players are actually weaker than Lyx in these settings. And now, there is going to be 2 pawns for Nili, 13 villagers lead. Here's the problem that Nili is going to face. There is going to be Aztec monks with 50 HP soon. The way you beat this, it's Vivi. Okay, so it's going to be Vivi. Honestly, I feel like Vivi is a smaller challenge for Nili on Empire Wars than Lyx is. Because Vivi is just not natural with these settings. That's a lot of egos though. So Nili still has to be careful. He's just waiting for a big blob of knights. This is all about having a huge blob of knights. Wait as much as possible, because you want to take one decisive engagement and destroy all the monks. That's basically the thing. So here comes the knight blob. There is actually iron casting on those knights, but no +2 defense. I actually like that layout for Nili, and he's gonna have to try and save those stables though, because you don't want to lose those. And indeed, Nili is going to bring in the villagers to repair. Nili, is he gonna throw away the game here? This could be a crucial mistake from Nili. He might try to intentionally let those egos into his base and then try to take the fight over here, but comes from the back at the perfect time. That's a perfect timing for Nili. He was just about to be overrun by egos. If the egos run in here, his eco would have been toast, but this is why he picked Berbers. He did expect the Aztec ego play. And one of the ways you can actually beat this is with cheap Berber knights. And the reason why you use Berber knights for this one is because they're so cheap that you can just mass a lot of them. So even if one or two gets converted, it's not really a big deal. And now, Nili is gonna go right towards the base of Lyx. Will try to just bash his way through the opponent's walls. And the tricky thing is that there is still monks in the middle for Lyx, and that's something to pay attention for. It's 50 HP. Nili should prioritize cleaning this one up a little bit more. So the thing is that there is 2 knights converted, and I think that Nili now wants a siege workshop in the middle, but I feel like he should actually prioritize cleaning this one up because it's still 5 relics for Lyx. So sure, Lyx is gonna be having his base push, but 5 relics for Lyx. Look at that gold income. That trickle over here for Lyx in the top left or top right corner. That's an insane amount of gold income from Lyx for the relics. And because of that, Nili still needs to be paying attention, but now he's inside Lyx's eco, so all he needs to do is just run around and, you know, start killing villagers. There is more and more pikemen from Lyx, but it's 64 to 44 eco. This wall is gonna be breached as well. Lyx, not really a reliable resource income anymore, and Nili's got quite a lot of fishing eco to keep flooding knights. Nili isn't taking the best engagements ever. In fact, he's taking quite inefficient engagements now. But this is about suiciding your knights and getting villager kills and trading your knights to villagers, essentially. So, look at this. Another villager gets picked off. Lyx is down to 39 villagers, and Lyx could be out of the tournament. Lyx could be out of the tournament here. Boy, oh boy. And many people said Lyx is gonna free 0 Nili, and that doesn't seem like it's going to happen. And Nili is gonna have his best shot at qualifying to Red Bull this year over here. 3rd Red Bull. He tried qualifying in all of those, and it's worth pointing out that in the first qualifiers, Nili couldn't play. Nili was one of the victims of the check-in problem in the first qualifiers. He tried playing, and he couldn't. And now he is on the doorstep of qualifying in what is a very, very tough competition, by the way. And he, like, at this point, Lyx is in huge trouble, and I don't see Lyx winning this one. Because, yeah, he's gonna have a few monks, but monks don't have mobility. Nili has an untouched fishing eco here and here. It's 73 villagers to 39. It's basically, like, we have gotten to a point where whatever Nili does, whatever units he makes, it's going to be good enough to deal with Lyx, because he's gonna have a lot more units. By the way, if Nili starts making crossbows like he's doing right now, he can just move into the middle, pick off the monks. He's gonna be okay against the spearmen as well. In fact, in the long run, Nili could switch into camel archers. So, let's see, there's knights. They will not be able to inflict... is there action overchop here? Not yet. I like that Nili is walling off this one, and Nili was really prepared for this. Lyx also came in prepared, but minor differences are showing, and the fact that Nili could actually take away Arabia, the fact that Nili can actually take away Kawasan, and I think the key thing is that Nili had an insanely good draft. Nili has won that draft by a massive margin. By the way, this stable still stands. I would love to see Nili just sending a will to repair it so he doesn't lose it. This game isn't completely over yet, but it would be a miracle if Nili actually lost this. Or Cav Archer is good against Eagle Warrior? No. Eagle Warriors have so much pierce armor that Cav Archers don't really hit them. Yo hasn't drafted this well. This is actually Lyx drafting. Yo's name is on the draft sheet because he is the one that is handling the website. But it's actually Lyx telling him what to draft. Now this is a scary moment for Nili over here. Pretty much an all-in push by Lyx here with the monks, with the eagles, and Nili's got quite a lot of crossbows over here, but these eagles do not have a lot of upgrades on them, and this is just not going to be enough for Lyx to compensate for this enormous Voyager difference. The camel archers work for Nili if Lyx goes full pikeman. And it seemed like Lyx is gonna go full pikeman, but no, Lyx is actually going for full eagles, which means that Nili should just continue making knights, and this is why I said that I feel like repairing that stable would have been a priority. And some scary moments here for Nili. Like, theoretically, no matter what, he should be winning this game. But the military count isn't that bad for Lyx. So Nili's gonna have to take a good engagement over here without losing a lot of knights to conversions, otherwise scary moments could actually follow. Nili should be winning this game by any measurable. In fact, he now waited for the overchop here. That was beautiful as well. He waited until the woodline was overchopped by Lyx and sends in a couple of knights. So Mangonel pops out, isn't able to get a good shot, and there is 2 Mangonels here as well for Lyx. Like, theoretically this push looks scary from Lyx, but I don't think it can inflict as much damage as Lyx wants it to. That's the problem. That if you actually compare the 2 players, Nili has killed 23 villagers, Lyx only killed 9, and it's 93 villas against 50. So yeah, Nili's got quite a lot of idols, but even with the idols, it's 66 villagers, or actually 76 villagers working for him. Whereas Lyx has 51 only, and he has 8 idols as well. And knights were just roaming free in his eco. So yeah, this is like one big push from Lyx. If Nili can actually destroy this push, I think Nili's got the game. And Nili's gotta be able to qualify if he does that. Or at least he's gonna have a chance to qualify, I should clarify, because there is still one series to go today for Nili. Yeah, Nili is playing this one very patient, exactly. Just like he played in early Castle Age. He knows that he shouldn't send in 10 knights, because if he sends in 10 knights, 5 of them might end up getting converted. So what you need to wait for is like one big blob of knights, like 30 knights, because in a case of 30 knights, it doesn't matter that 3 of them gets converted. The more knights you have, the better. As long as you can delay this, the better. Now, Nili's eco is slowly getting crippled, and he's got 40 idols, so maybe I have spoken too soon. Nili's gonna have to clean this one up, otherwise his eco is going to be so bad. Here it comes, the big cavalry charge, monks trying to get conversions in, crossbows also firing from the behind, Nili trying to get the Mangonels killed. You gotta be kidding me. Okay, no, this isn't enough for Nili. This isn't enough for Nili. And if Nili could lose this game, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, Lyx coming back from the hell. And Nili has like no eco, no army. How is Lyx winning this? How is Lyx winning this? He was behind by 50 vills. But now Nili has got like no eco. He's trying to get knights out, but 6 only on gold. Look at this. This is not what you want. 50 idols for Nili. Lyx's eco is actually better now. And all Lyx needs to do is just push off Nili from those rams. Their egos will just do the rest. Remember, Lyx still has 5 relics garrisoned inside. At the end of the game, we'll look at that gold count and you're going to see it's 5k gold for Lyx. And I am 90% convinced that the only reason why Lyx has a chance of winning this is because 5 relics are garrisoned inside this monastery. That's an awful lot of gold income. That being said, Nili still theoretically has a chance of winning. Like, he has the voyage elite, he just needs to make sure he actually balances out his eco. But I feel like Lyx has a shot at least trying to even this game out. Remember, 5 relics is 5 relics for Aztecs. That's an awful lot of gold income. That's like, I don't have the exact number in my head, but it's something like 12, 13 villagers of gold income easily. So, it's not that bad if you consider that Nili has a huge amount of idols. Nili is still favorite, but 3 minutes ago I would have said that Lyx is dead. Now I'm saying that Lyx has a small chance of winning. Nili should still be able to dominate this one with knights, but as you see, Nili's food eco isn't amazing right now. It's not like he's spamming those knights, right? Lyx doesn't have a lot of eco upgrades, and Nili is now trying to get a raid in. This overchop is going to hurt quite badly for Lyx though. Like, if he doesn't actually fix this, Lyx's eco is also just as bad as Nili's eco, so That's not great for either side. And Nili's gonna go for a counterattack. But that TC is slowly going down. Nili's gonna have to fall back to this corner, re-establish his food eco. Tries to dive in and snipe the mango. That's a nice move from Nili. That's a beautiful move from Nili. He was distracting Lyx here, and now he moves in and snipes the mango. That was a beautiful move. As I said, some scary moments here for Nili. I feel like his lead is too big to lose this game, but there were some very scary moments for Nili. When he had like 90 viewers but 40 idols, that pretty much sums up to be an eco lead for Lyx. But Nili, if he gets a reasonable amount of knights out here, he could actually try taking this fight once again. His fishing eco is getting more and more inefficient, by the way, because longer travel distance, and now they're taking short fish as well. This 5 relics inside this monastery is going to be insanely huge. If Nili drops a castle, true. If Nili drops a castle, this push is going to stall out. So a castle for Nili would actually be very beneficial. He's 5 on stone only, so he's gonna need a lot of time until he actually gets to a castle. Tries to save the knights, but that's a beautiful move. 1 light cav only. Imagine if this was 3 light cavs. He dragged away the eagles and now killed 2 monks relatively easily. That was a nice move from Nili once again. He just needs a little bit more light cav, I believe, to try and dive in and snipe the monks. Crossbows picking off the mangonel. Nili, oh, that's once again a huge hit in his face. Nili is buying himself some time, but he's just unable to finish this game off. Lyx isn't going down easily here for him. This is definitely a nail-biter game. And there is still 500 years to go if this game drags long. And remember, Lyx could be saying, hey, I'm chilling at 5 relics, so I'm fine. There is quite a lot of crossbows here for Nili, which could be something to consider. I don't think that there is redemption. That reflex from Nili. He literally jumped into the TC in the moment the mangonel stones or rocks hit the ground. Those crossbows didn't die. Like 2 of them actually lost their life, but all of them, basically all of them jumped into the TC. That was like 90% of those crossbows saved. Mangonel versus Mangonel, that's a nice one. That's a lot of eagles though, that's an awful lot of eagles. And it's 33 eagles against 70 knights. Knights do not have +2 defense. And if you have 5 monks, oh, Nili once again, beautiful move. Popping out of the TC with the crossbows, diving in to kill the monks. That was beautiful as well. He used the TC to make sure that the eagles can't kill the crossbows, and then jumped out, and then jumped on top of the monks. The problem is that this is still not enough for Nili. This is still not enough. A castle would stop this, but you need to get that castle up. I feel like what you do is delete these 2 houses and make the castle here. Because I don't think that you can necessarily drop it over here. In fact, I don't think that's even remotely possible. Eagle numbers are dropping now for Lyx though. I think he's overcommitting. And if he's overcommitting like this, Nili is going to overrun those monks with a couple of crossbows. And I feel like, yeah, all these eagles going down is something that could end the game for Lyx here. Oh man, that was a crazy series. This is definitely the best game of the series though. Like, this was sick. There are so many nail-biting moments, some crazy micro from both sides. And yeah, it's only 3 monks. Lyx still has double the army than Nili does though. And that's something to monitor. Lyx has half the villagers. Lyx's eco is hopeful, by the way. And honestly, if Lyx actually made villagers, I think he would be getting a reasonable game in here. If Lyx actually just made villagers once in a while, he would be up to like 80 villagers, and then it wouldn't be that bad. Nili has enough stone for a castle, indeed, tries to repair that DC for the time being. Nili's fishing eco is running out though, and he's microing his stuff heavily, so it's not like he has the time to really look at those. He has a lot of wood, so he can drop a bunch of fish traps, and I think he's gonna start doing that very soon. He has the stone for defensive castle, and defensive castle would stop this push. But yeah, honestly, I think that the reason why Lyx is going to lose this game is not because of the damage that he suffered early on. It's because he doesn't add eco. Like, look at how big his army is. If he just added eco once in a while, he might be able to turn this around. Because he would be at 80 villagers or so. Obviously, he can't add as much money, as much army, as he wants to, if he's going for eco as well. But yeah, Lyx should be killing those villagers beneath the TC, by the way. But it looks like he wants to commit and stop that castle. He wants to stop that castle. Nili is going to use the TC to jump inside and just keep the villagers safe for the time being. Lyx is going to use the mangonels to just take down... Oh, what is that? I don't know what that was. But Lyx is trying to use the mangonels to stop that castle. Light Cav coming in here to try and snipe the monks. There isn't really a lot of monks on the field for Lyx, and now the knights could pop out. I feel like this is a decisive engagement for Nili. He sniped the monks, and here comes the cavalry. There is 2 more monks arriving into the battle. Nili trying to get that castle up at 50%. Monk trying to get some conversions in, but I don't think this is enough for Lyx. I don't think this is enough. This is crazy micro, by the way, from both sides, and I think Nili has enough to hold out here. But let's be honest, this was a very, very close game at the end here. Like, I feel like if Lyx just added a little bit more eco, like instead of actually having 67 eco for the majority of the game, this could have been a different game. Now Nili is gonna win this. Like, Nili is not supposed to be losing this one by any measurable, even though he has 40 idols still. But now Nili's got the unit composition that's capable of beating Lyx, and all he needs to do is just clean those monasteries up. Like, that's basically the win condition. But there is Camel Archers now, and Camel Archers will be good to snipe monks because they have mobility and they can avoid the eagles. Like, crossbows will die to the eagles, so they're not that great at cleaning up monks. Camel Archers will be cleaning up monks relatively easily. Lyx, by the way, tried to drop a castle here. Lyx actually tried dropping a castle here. Like, is he actually gonna... He's gonna do it. Lyx is gonna go down proud here. He's basically gonna pull all his villagers, and he will try to overrun Nili over here. This could actually be bad for Nili, because, truth being told, he's sending all his knights to Lyx's base. Lyx is gonna lose all his villagers, but it's not like Lyx has eco anyways, right? Like, Lyx has no eco, so it's not like he's going to lose much here. Obviously, he's gonna be down to like 30 villas, so this is more for pride, and I don't think this actually is gonna go up. And indeed, Lyx taps out. Nili wins the game against Lyx, and he's going to play in the deciders. I would call this an upset. And it's an upset not because it's Nili winning, it's because it's 3-1, and it was a very convincing win from Nili. This last game got scary for him, but this, like the first game, Arabia, he was playing extremely good. In the second game, that wasn't that great on Lyx's home map, but the way he played his own map, home map, Cattails, was amazing, and this one was also amazing. And I just want to put it up for the memes. If you check out Nili's Twitter, a couple of days ago, he posted an image of an empty shelf, and he said this is where he would actually hold his, or keep his AoE 2 trophies. And boy, he's actually on course to getting into the main event here. And as I said, his opponent is going to be the Fat Dragon, Vivi. And I'm not 100% sure that Vivi is a harder opponent than Lyx. He could be. But if Nili plays the level that he played on in this one, I think that he has a chance to beat Vivi. And GL would have another player in there. Beautiful eco from Nili that pretty much carried the game for him. 19 converts for Lyx. But this is something I want to point out. 6,000 gold for Lyx from those relics. I feel like Nili did underestimate the importance of those relics in the monasteries. I feel like he could have tried destroying those monasteries first before pushing Lyx's eco. So that is Nili getting into the decider games 3-1 against Lyx.